The college basketball season is off and running, and the Tar Heels are 1-0 with a big performance from their big man, Armando Bacot. But guess what? This Tar Heels team does not have to rely on him to go because they have several dudes who can beat you on any night. This is a team.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, it's Tuesday, November 7th, 2023. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade, and I want to thank you everydayers for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listen or watch to get your Tar Heels content every single day of the week. We also want to welcome in the guests who are joining us for the first time, or maybe you're a repeat coming back. Welcome in. We're so glad you're here too. If you haven't joined our Discord yet, where we have all Carolina conversation all the time, the link to that's in the show notes. We'd love to have you. We're always having great talk. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Coming up on the show today, we're just going to be recapping Carolina's season opening win over Radford, 86-70. We'll have our four corners recap of the game. We'll have our Schadey Stat of the game. We've got some odds and ends for you, just kind of things I like to take away. I like to call them quick hitters. But first, my biggest take of this game is this. I'm already encouraged by what I saw from this team that looks more connected already than what I saw at any point last year from the Tar Heels. Carolina did what you have to do on night one, and that's win, which is more than Michigan State can say. Yeesh, right? And Radford is a good team. They've got dudes, Ryan Antoine, who was in the Big East, these guys are players. They're going to be something to be reckoned with in the Big South up against UNC Asheville. That's for sure. But Carolina did that. They were connected and they won. And it's always good to see that a team is a team and that they're connected. But keep in mind, this is a team that has just 4 returning scholarship players, that is trying to work in 7 brand new players, 2 freshmen and 5 transfers. And yet they're already showing an on-court connectedness that stems from an off-court connectedness, unlike anything that, in my opinion, we ever saw last year. I don't know about you, but that is encouraging. And again, seriously, props to Radford. They hit a lot of tough shots, particularly in the first half. But Carolina stayed within themselves. They did what they wanted to do. They didn't get out of what they're trying to be as a team this season, even when they fell behind in the first half. And so in terms of that connectedness, yes, my eyeballs are telling me that as I watch Carolina move the ball around the floor and find better shots. But the numbers back it up too. So in this case, you can trust your eyeballs because they're telling you what is actually happening on the court. For the Tar Heels on Monday night, 32 made baskets, 18 assists. Obviously, that's just over halfway. 16 would be right at 50%. On that, the Tar Heels finish at 56.3% on their assist ratio. In case you're wondering about how that compares to last year, where we talked about how Carolina just didn't do the job they needed to with sharing the ball. They had an assist percentage higher than 56.3 just 5 times all of last season. They already beat that in night one. In fact, night one last year, it was very, very low. Carolina only had 4 total assists. Yes, you heard me correctly. 4 total assists in their opening night game last year. And when Carolina did finally get above 56.3% assist ratio, it took them 11 games. It was not until their 11th game that they were higher than that. They did this on night one. So if this is your starting point, what's Carolina going to be a month from now? What's Carolina going to be 2 months from now as they start ACC play? What are they going to be as Elliot Cadeau and Zayden High really learn how to play college basketball? What are they going to be as these parts coming from all over the country to transfer into Chapel Hill are all connected and united? You thought you saw connectivity on night one on Monday night? Yeah, you did. But just wait, because unless the wheels just absolutely fall off, this team is only going to have an upward trajectory. And it's precisely because they are exactly that, a team. And Coach Davis, at least on night one, was a lot more willing to play them all than he has been in the past. 10 deep in the first half. Every scholarship player outside of James Okonkwo got time in the first half. And not only did they get time, but everyone contributed. Everyone did something. They scored, they got a steal, they got an assist, a rebound, whatever it was. For the game, 9 of the 11 scholarship players played double-digit minutes, and only Zayden High and James Okonkwo didn't. And High was at 8 minutes. So it's like just, you could essentially round up. That's encouraging. But here's what's part of that as well. In the first half, nobody, and I mean nobody, played more than 15 minutes. Every player at least got a 5-minute break from game action in the first half. Is that going to be the norm, or is that just a factor of playing Radford? We'll obviously find out about that as the season continues to unfold. But what is that going to do for RJ's legs and Armando's legs as the season wears on? What does it say that in totality, only one Tar Heel played 30 or more minutes on Monday night? And that was Cormac Ryan, who played 31. Everyone else was under that. That's important as this team stays connected, so they're fresh in the second half and ready to keep running. Because if they're going to run, they got to be fresh and they got to be ready. So I don't know about you, but I'm very encouraged what I see and saw on night one. Now, I know you might look at it and say, yeah, but they were behind for a while and they didn't pull ahead till late, or, pull ahead by double digits and extended until late. In fact, they didn't even cover. The line was 18.5, at least at FanDuel, and they only won by 16. What's up with that? Listen, Radford, again, this is the third time I'm going to say it. They are a really good basketball team. Of the bye games, they're the best of those 4. They're going to play hard. They're going to be a good team. And keep in mind, opening night, again, you kind of throw some of it out of the window. Similar to a rivalry game, right? You just got to come out on night one and perform. That's what Carolina did. I hope you're as encouraged by it as I am, because again, the results are going to keep coming, but it's important that we see that this team is a team. Well, coming up next, I got to give you our very first Four Corners recap of the regular season. Plus, we got our Schadey Stat of the game. All of that coming up for you in just a second. Right after I tell you that this episode of Locked On Tar Heels is brought to you by FanDuel. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So maybe you've been thinking about joining FanDuel. Should I do it? Should I try it out? There's no better time to get in on the action than right now because of this great promo. The app also, it's super easy to use. They've got a wide range of betting options like spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. There's college basketball lines in there. For example, national championship odds are out. Carolina is tied with Arkansas and Gonzaga for the 6th best national championship odds at plus 3,000. Leading the way, the best championship odds right now, Kansas, Duke, and Purdue, all tied at plus 1,100. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. Again, FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Okay, Four Corners recap. Let's get into it. For those of you who aren't aware of this, maybe you're joining us and you hadn't been with us last basketball season. As a way to honor Coach Dean Smith and his famous offense, the way we do a recap and a preview is we look at 4 things, and we just call it the Four Corners recap. So we're going to look at the 4 things that we talked about on our preview and see how Carolina did with those. So the first thing in the Four Corners recap is the starting lineup. That's always like a big question mark coming into the first game of the regular season. What's a coach going to do? What's it going to look like? Who's going to actually start? Who's going to play starters minutes? Who's going to close? These are all questions we're always looking at. we didn't really get a sense of, let me go to the back end of it. We didn't get a sense of who's going to close just because of kind of the blowout nature late of the game. We did maybe get some sense of that at the end of the first half as for the majority of the final 4 minutes, it was RJ Davis, Elliot Cadeau, Cormac Ryan, Harrison Ingram, and Armando Bacot. There was later in that last stretch, as we got just under a minute, Seth Trimble checked in for Elliot. And then a little bit later, I think there was about 20 seconds left, that Paxton Wojcik checked in for Seth Trimble. But the majority of that closing of that first half was that 5. Now, in terms of actual starters, it was the same both halves of the game. And it was the exact same starting lineup that we got in the exhibition game. And that is RJ Davis, Cormac Ryan, Paxton Wojcik, Harrison Ingram, and Armando Bacot. And, we got signs and hints of this throughout the lead up to the season. We saw it when we got the media access at practice and we saw who was in white. Remember, I talked about it then. And there have been several times just rumblings I've heard from people who have been at practices and seen things and seen development and seen just what they're trying to do. Hey, just be ready that Elliot might not be starting from day one. But here's the thing. People are going to try to use that as ammo against the Tar Heels. Oh, he's coming in and he's not starting. It's just like Nasir Little or whatever it is. That ain't it at all. It's just what Coach Davis thinks is best. And you don't hear Elliot out there like, oh, I got to be starting. The time will come. I promise you that. Before this season over, Elliot Cadeau will start a North Carolina basketball game. But it's just not time yet. And that's okay. We just need to be okay with that. Because things are going to be fine. When coach needs to make a switch, he will. Now, in terms of substitution patterns, we'll talk about depth later on. But Elliot and Zayden High, just like the exhibition game, were the first to check in. They did so just right at that under 16 media timeout. And then the first to check in the second half, it was Elliot again, but then Jalen Withers with him in place of Zayden High. Now, another thing we have to do is not just look at who actually starts, but who plays starters minutes. That's an important designation to always be able to look at. So when you check it out, I already said Cormac played the most at 31. Right behind him were 3 of the other 4 starters. Armando played 29, RJ 28, and Harrison Ingram played 27. And then Wojcik and Elliot were almost dead even. Paxton played 20, Elliot played 19, and then just right behind them was Jalen Withers with 15. And so you're starting to see just early indications of the guys who are going to get the majority of the minutes, even those off the bench. Really looks like some Jalen Cadeau. But then again, you did have Seth Trimble playing 11 and Jalen Washington playing 10. So you've got guys getting in there and getting minutes. So that's the first look at our Four Corners recap, the starters and what happened there. Next, number 2. I said that I wanted this game to be as clean as possible for the Tar Heels. Now, why do I say as possible? Because look, again, it's a first game. You're going to have jitters. You're going to still be figuring each other out. This is part of the deal, especially in this day and age. There's going to be some sloppy moments. There's going to be some unforced turnovers. There's going to be guys going to the wrong place, making the wrong read, whatever it is. And that led to 7 turnovers by the time of the third media timeout, and then 8 in total in the first half. That's not great. That extrapolates out to 16 over the course of the game. But here's, some good news specifically on the turnovers front in terms of being as clean as possible. Only 3 turnovers in the second half. And then another part of the turnovers is when you hear 11, you're like, oh, I bet somebody had kind of a rough day. Not true. These turnovers were spread out amongst the team, and that allows you to live with it a little more. In fact, nobody had more than 2 turnovers. 3 players had 2 turnovers. Nobody else had multiple turnovers. And perhaps most encouraging with that, Harrison Ingram, 0. 3 assists, 0 turnovers. That's what Carolina needs from him. Playmaking and smart playmaking. Although there's probably should have been a turnover attributed to him. Oh, I'm sorry. I said Harrison Ingram. He did have 2 turnovers. It was Cormac Ryan. That was 3 assists, 0 turnovers. That makes more sense because I remember a Harrison Ingram turnover. So, that was clean in terms of spread out. You'd like to see 11 get down into single-digit turnovers. But again, if Carolina's starting to play faster again, you're going to have more possessions, which means more opportunities for turnovers. So 11 in the first game, relatively clean, but ultimately as the season wears on, we want to see that number come down. So again, it's all about looking at turnover percentage more so than just the raw number. Third, in our four corners recap was I said I want to watch Carolina on defense. What do they do? How do they look? Chiefly, we were wanting to look in the backcourt at how Carolina played their ball screen defense. Were they going to switch like they did in the exhibition game, everything 1 through 4, or would we go back to hedging or some other kind of ball screen defense? And Carolina, sure enough, continued to switch ball screen. So I think it's safe to say, I know it's only been the exhibition in the first regular season game, that this is how Carolina plans to play ball screen defense. Part of playing essentially a small ball lineup with Harrison Ingram at the 4 is that allows you the ability to switch all that 1 through 4. Harrison, he's not naturally ready to guard, like fleet-footed ones, but he'll be able to keep up for a time. So it seems like that's what the Tar Heels are going to do. Also on defense, Carolina, didn't quite have it in the first half. That was probably the energy I needed to see more. But man, there were some individual moments in the first half. Seth Trimble, always like, goodness gracious. It's so fun to watch him play individual defense. But then in the second half, Carolina as a team really, really ramped up their defense. And it really started, you saw it showing in how Radford was really no longer able to do the things that they were trying to do. And they went from, in the first half, shooting exactly 50% in the first half, 17 of 34, to in the second half, shooting only 11 of 32, 34%. And so that Carolina's defense, again, really ratcheted up and made things more difficult there in the second half for Radford. So you want to see that continue on. Goodness, Cormac, he's just straight pesky Cormac Ryan. As you watch him and what he's doing, it's one of those guys you love to have him on your team. You hate it when he's not. And then fourth in our four corners recap, I had said, let Mondo feast. Radford just wasn't really bringing much in terms of height that can match up with Armando and what he's doing. And they didn't. Armando finishes 25 points, 13 rebounds for the game. It was his fourth career game of at those thresholds of at least 25 points and at least 13 rebounds. Just the fourth time he's done that. So don't look at this and think, oh, cool, Mondo did what Mondo does. Nope. This was a dominant performance, and he missed a bucket or two that he wished he had back, which stinks because he maybe could have got to 30 for the first time in his career. What I love, though, was that Carolina really made a strong effort to go after getting him the ball in the second half. And then Radford immediately starts trying to get more size in, but he just started having his way there in the second half. But perhaps the most encouraging thing to me from Armando's stat line, 5 of 6 from the free throw line. I love him converting that many. Carolina as a team didn't do great from the free throw line, but Armando individually did. I would like to see him have a few more attempts. I'd like him to get closer to 10 free throw attempts a game, just really assert his will in there, get foul trouble on the opposing front court, those kind of things. But I love to see his conversion rate. And obviously 25 points, 13 rebounds. That's a double-double, 69th of his career dub-dub, which moves him into third all-time in the ACC by himself in terms of career double-doubles. Great stuff there from Armando. Let me give you the Schadey stat of the game. Obviously, I think for me this season, assists is going to be something I'm just watching like a hawk. How does Carolina do with that? But something else I noticed as I looked at the box score, with Carolina playing small ball, they're going to need to be able to give Armando help on the glass because he's not going to be able to do it all himself. He got 13 tonight out of Carolina's 37 total. But here's what I love. In this moment where, again, we're saying everyone has to pitch in, everyone did. 11 Tar Heels played. Every single one of them had at least one rebound in the box score. Man, that is such an encouraging sign to see guys getting in, doing it, getting boards. In fact, all 5 starters had at least 3 rebounds, as did Jalen Washington, who had 4. So that means 6 Tar Heels had at least 3 rebounds. And that's what Carolina's going to have to do. That combination of the front, that means the 2 5-men combined, Armando and Jae'lyn, had 17 combined rebounds. We will take that. So that's your Schadey stat of the game. Everyone pitching in on rebounds, just as Coach Davis needs them to be able to do. Well, I want to get to some odds and ends, some of the quick hitters, talk about some other things that we haven't got to yet. Just some quick takeaways from me on Monday night's season opener. We're going to get to that in just a second and share some of that with you right after I tell you that this episode of Locked On Tar Heels is brought to you by Game Time. Hey, college basketball season is here, and you're going to need last-minute tickets to some incredible sporting action this season. Here's what I love about Game Time. Literally every time I've gone into the app, I know they're going to have tickets I need. I know they're going to have them at a price point that I'm looking for. And I know that they're going to have a picture of the view from my seat so I can get an idea of what it's going to look like if I buy these tickets. Because that's a big deal to me. I want to know, what am I going to be able to see or not see when I sit in these seats? Like if I'm going to get tickets to Broadway, is it going to be an obstructed view? Am I going to be too far off to the side like I am right now on YouTube where you can't even see me? Like all of that, I know that Game Time's got that for you. It's the fast and easy way to buy tickets for any event you're looking for. I said theater, but football, basketball, music, comedy, whatever it is, you name it, they got it. And in addition to that view from your seat feature, here's a couple others I love. They have a lowest price guarantee and an event cancellation protection policy. That makes buying, I've got so much peace of mind when I do it. It makes me comfortable to go ahead and buy the tickets. So take the guesswork out of doing it by using Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, some quick hitters, some odds and ends from Monday night's win over Radford. First bucket of the season. Anybody remember who it was? Armando. A nice little dunk off an assist from Paxton Wojcik, who had a great little start there. He had that assist and then buried a three to get Carolina off and running. Something I love about this team, it doesn't just have to be RJ or Elliot leading or Seth Trimble leading the break. There are multiple guys capable of doing so and multiple guys that the coaching staff wants leading it. Harrison Ingram in particular, I love seeing him get a rebound and just go. This dude is built like a freight train and you don't want to get in his way. So if he can get the rebound and go, move out, it's like, think about, again, I've said this before, I'm not calling him LeBron, but think about when LeBron gets the ball and just runs. Nobody wants to get in his way. And Harrison Ingram has a dynamic of that to him. But also Cormac Ryan, he can get out and go as well. And so I really like to see those dudes doing it. What does it allow? RJ can go spot up on the wing or do whatever he needs to do. That's awesome. Speaking of Cormac and Harrison, next thing, you really can see why they're so impactful. Yes, all the transfers, the freshmen coming in are going to be able to do great things for this team. But I really think that in addition to the kind of linchpins in Armando and RJ, man, there's just something about Cormac and Harrison and what they bring that I think is critical for this team. Harrison is savvy. He's got an IQ. He does lots of things really well that add to the team. I mean, you look at his stat line in 12 points on 4 of 9 shooting, 2 of 5 from 3, 2 of 5 from the free throw line. Like to see that get better. 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 turnovers, 2 blocks, and all that in 27 minutes. Like, man, that is just filling up a stat sheet, and you'll absolutely love to see it. As for Cormac, man, he just brings a lot of dynamics. He's a quick trigger three. With under a minute left in the first half, he had this steal where he just kind of rose up and grabbed the ball like a D-back almost, led the break, dropped it off for Harrison for a dunk, who finished plus the foul. Man, it's just, I love these two dudes, and I'm very excited for what they mean to this team. Somebody whose name you notice we have not mentioned much yet on the show, RJ Davis. I said it just a couple minutes ago, but we really haven't talked about him much. He had 13 points. But as I was watching the game, one of the notes I had is that it was just a very quiet 13 points. Didn't have to do a ton. And, he wasn't as efficient as often he is, just 1 of 5 from 3, 6 of 14 from the field. I mean, that's fine. You'll take a guy that shoots from outside a lot more, being just south of 50% from the field. But in the same way that he was 1 of 5 of 3, he's going to have games where he's 4 of 5 from 3. It's just going to happen. One thing I would like to see from RJ, no free throw attempts. I'd like to see him get to the line. But 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, a steal in 28 minutes. But I just love that it was a quiet 13. Didn't have to do much, didn't have to be getting in the way and doing all these things, just doing the deal. And they're just similar. Again, that's part of what this team being a team is all about. There's nights where it's going to be Armando like it was Monday. There's nights where RJ is going to drop 25. There's probably going to be nights where Cormac is just on fire. I mean, because same kind of thing, just kind of a workman-like. I think he also had 13. Was that Cormac's final? Yeah. And so like just multiple dudes capable of doing it. But RJ quietly worked his way to 13 points. Elliot Cadeau, first points of his career came with 13:35 left in the game from the free throw line. And then he got his first bucket of his career a couple minutes later with a nice finish through traffic in the lane. But the thing we're looking at, and that you obviously always want to know, how many assists, how many turnovers? 6 assists to start his career, 2 turnovers. So you'll take that, particularly from a player in his first game. And keep in mind, I mean, that's only in 19 minutes. He had 6 assists. And so as advertised with that, and Elliot will continue to do those things. There were injury questions coming in. You know, we had Cormac Ryan had tweaked his ankle in the exhibition game. He obviously started and played the most minutes on the team. So that's encouraging. Seth had been out with lower body stuff. Obviously, he played 11 minutes. Jalen Withers had missed the exhibition game. He played. So all of that is encouraging. You've got your full complement of all 11 scholarship players. You love to see it. Paxton Wojcik, though, got stitches from some kind of blow sustained at shoot around on Monday and was back playing. And so that's encouraging. And there was Seth Trimble almost had a bad injury. There's about 7 minutes left in the first half. And he was kind of, you remember this play, he was going up for rebound, was kind of undercut. And it almost looked like he was going to land on his leg weird and do something. I mean, you could even see in the background over to the bench, you saw Doug Halverson and who was over there with him? And Jonas Saratian, and just their faces were like, oh my gosh, oh no. But thankfully, I mean, nothing came of it. Seth was fine. And so that's encouraging. So all in all, again, this is something else you're always looking for. Can you get out of an opening game with a win and with no one getting hurt? And that's what happened. So you move on to the next game. There was a lot of talk about what the coaching staff would wear, because in the exhibition game, Coach Davis wore a blazer. The other guys wore quarter zips. That's what happened again. I don't, it's so funny how we end up talking about clothing, but that was something that happened. Speaking of clothing, one final note. We obviously learned late last week that Tar Heel legend and uncle of head coach Hubert Davis, Walter Davis, died sadly, so tragically, sadly. But Carolina wore shooting shirts on Monday to honor him. And you just love to see those kind of gestures. So obviously thoughts and prayers go out to the Davis family, to the entire Carolina family. Man, what a guy, Walter Davis. So much that he contributed to this program. And obviously hit the shot that sent the game to overtime against Duke, and that famous shot that's right up there with the Jordan shot and the Luke May shot and everything. And so Carolina loses a legend, and that is very sad, unfortunately. Well, it's great to get a win. Carolina's 1-0. We move forward. Carolina will play Lehigh on Sunday afternoon, and we are anticipating that game as well. But before that, we got Duke and Carolina in football on Saturday night late, and so we'll be ready for that one. Coming up tomorrow on the show, obviously, Coach Pat Kilby will be with us. Great stuff. Can't wait for that. Thanks so much for tuning into today's episode of Locked On Tar Heels. We'd love for you to join our Discord if you've not already. You can subscribe to the show on video and audio, smash the like button, and leave comments. We'd love to hear what you thought about the opening game. But again, if you want to do that with a bunch of other Tar Heels, the Discord is the place to do it. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Heels. You can follow me at Isaac Schade. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Can't wait to be right back with you tomorrow. But until then, peace.